Interest rates, inflation, and the upcoming election, a trifecta shaking up the market. I'll break down the latest data and what it means for you if you're buying or selling this upcoming season. 1995 set the record for low home sales for the last 40 years, but 2024 has taken that title. What does this mean for the San Diego market and how does it affect you? Stick around to find out. Could Amazon and Home Depot be the unexpected fix for the San Diego housing affordability crisis? Well, only if you're ready to buy into the trend. Sit tight and I'll share with you just how ridiculously affordable your next home could actually be. All this covered here in this week's San Diego Market Matters. I'm Karl, your San Diego Realtor. Now, if you're new to the channel, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all of the content that I post here. I really enjoy doing these videos to keep you up to date and informed in what's happening in our market. And real quick, if you're thinking of buying or selling here in San Diego, I have a link in the description below where you can set up a time for us to connect and discuss your goals. And if the link isn't as ideal, you're welcome to call me directly. I have people just like you reaching out to me regularly to help them with their next move here in San Diego. Well, now that we got that out of the way, let's jump into the good stuff. Now let's dive into the latest economic updates affecting our market here in San Diego and across the nation. The key report hitting the headlines, the Personal Consumption Expenditures, or the PCE report, came in at 2.1%. A slight step down from the recent months and on track with the Fed goal of reaching 2%. Our GDP also took a slight dip, now down to 2.8% from 3%, hinting at some cooling in the overall economic growth. Now, in theory, a lower inflation rate like this ought to start giving some relief in the lending world, but that's not exactly what we're seeing. After a brief and exciting dip in mortgage rates down to the low 6% range, a low that buyers were holding their breath hoping for more for, rates have now shot back up to over 7%. When you think about it, the difference between a 6% and a 7% rate can add hundreds of dollars to your monthly payment. And it's slowing down both the buying pace and overall sales as we head into what's traditionally a slower season for real estate anyways. And please, if you're looking to buy a home, do not defer to a Zillow payment projector. It's horrible at giving you a realistic interest rate, which will screw up your expectations for a monthly payment. I'm literally going through this issue right now. I have a listing and the buyer who made an offer was basing her payment off of what Zillow told her the interest rate will be. Well, after getting this buyer to a lender, the interest rate was a full point higher than what she expected, having a pretty radical impact on her payment. Now, we were able to work some things out with my seller by offering a 2-1 buy down in exchange for a reasonable purchase price. But it's not always gonna work out that well. So be mindful. The interest rate on that Zillow payment calculator is not very accurate. A big piece of what's driving this rate increase isn't necessarily about inflation. It's about the upcoming election and the uncertainty that comes with it. Here's the thing. Markets are hypersensitive to political change, and with the presidential election right around the corner, there's a lot of speculation about future economic policies. Investors tend to be cautious with lending in this type of an environment, which pushes up the cost of borrowing across the board. And this election is likely going to keep mortgage rates pretty unpredictable for a while yet. We will eventually see mortgage rates come down, but as expected, and as I've been sharing with you in these videos, it will be for quite some time before we see them settle and stabilize at lower ranges. So what does this mean for you if you're a buyer or seller here in San Diego? Well, if you're a buyer, these higher rates mean two things. First, you'll want to keep an eye on your loan pre-qualification status, because with rates jumping over 7%, your buying power likely took a hit. And second, it could be an opportunity. With lower sales volume due to rates and the upcoming winter season, which tends to be slower as well, this might mean that there's less competition for homes on the market. For sellers, on the other hand, this is a signal to price competitively and prepare for potential buyers who may be more cautious or negotiating more strongly due to these higher financial costs. This is where it's really important to have a listing strategy that will promote buyer interest that goes beyond the list price. As we go into the end of the year, I'll continue to watch these numbers closely and report what's happening to you. Any signs of inflation cooling further or rate adjustments from the Feds could signal some relief, but until we have a solid trend, I expect buyers and sellers will be navigating through a more cautious and unpredictable market landscape. So rates are up, the presidential election is around the corner, and sales are down. With so much at play, both politically and economically, what do you expect the real estate market to look like in 2025? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about what this could mean for us here in San Diego. All right, now some more data on the current status of our market. This year has thrown up some surprising numbers and broken a long-standing record, but not in a good way. Existing sales expect to close at the lowest levels since 1985, despite national inventory being at a 4-year high. As a result, we're seeing a significant change in buyer behavior. High home prices and persistently elevated mortgage rates breaking into that 7% range are clotheslining all potential and active buyers on the market. Simply put, it's tough to jump into a market where interest rates alone make monthly payments unaffordable for so many. But this isn't the only time we've experienced a market like this. Rewind to 1995. The housing market was recovering from economic strains in the early 1990s. Home sales had dropped during the first half of the year, but managed to pick up by the third quarter as mortgage rates came down. In contrast, our market is not getting that same relief. While rates dropped briefly down to almost 6% recently, they quickly rebounded upwards, wiping out the hopes and dreams of active buyers thinking they had a chance of getting into the market. Today's high interest rates do more than raise monthly payments. They also limit buyers' ability to qualify for a mortgage in the first place. With our prices here in San Diego holding reasonably steady, it's no surprise that buyers are staying out of the market, thus contributing to 5 weeks in a row of declining new purchase applications. Now let's put some things into context. If you look at this chart by Realtor.com, the national new listing inventory, this means the number of new homes coming to market, has exceeded all of 2023, which was the lowest year we had in recorded history. But 2024 still has less new inventory coming to market than the years between 2017 and 2022. As for our overall inventory, this looks a little bit different. 2024 is showing at a 4-year high, exceeding every year back to the start of COVID. But we're still pretty far off from the years prior to COVID. So what does this all mean? Well, as more inventory is coming to market and our standing inventory grows beyond what we've seen for the last 4 years, this is telling us that buyers are becoming more and more scarce. In fact, recent data shows existing home sales dropped about 15% from August to September here in San Diego, bringing them to one of the lowest annual paces in over the last 10 years. Meanwhile, we're seeing the lock-in effect as homeowners with low-rate mortgages choose to stay put. This lack of movement, in a good way, is capping our inventory growth as fewer homeowners are willing to trade in a low mortgage interest rate for a loan with a 7% or higher. In San Diego, we're seeing this reflected in our average days on market. Last year, homes in September averaged about 26 days on the market, while this year we're averaging about 34 days. This signals a shift towards a slower, less competitive market where both buyers and sellers are more cautious. With fewer homes entering the market and buyer hesitancy, sellers may need to adjust their expectations both on timing and pricing. Despite the challenging conditions, some economists anticipate a gradual uptick in buying activity as we enter 2025, especially if inflation cools and rates ease up. That said, the path forward remains uncertain and affordability will likely remain the key issue. The CME tool is projecting almost 100% chance of a 25 basis point cut from the Feds at their next meeting on November 7th. Though the Fed rate clearly does not impact mortgage rates, this next cut could be the signal that we need to understand the direction the market is going into 2025 and how soon we may see relief in mortgage rates after the new year. Here's one thing that you may need to come to terms with if you haven't already. 2%, 3%, and 4% interest rates are a thing of the past. Unless we come into a massive economic depression or recession, rates that low will unlikely be seen in any of our lifetimes. Now, let's make our way to talk about a newer trend that may provide a solution to both the housing crisis as well as affordability. As the housing affordability crisis continues to challenge many Americans, the rise of alternative housing solutions is gaining momentum. If you're willing to embrace this emerging trend, it could redefine what affordable housing means for you here in San Diego. Amazon and Home Depot have both entered the space offering tiny homes and accessory dwelling units, aka ADUs, at unbelievably low prices. In some cases, lower than the cost of a brand new car. Amazon, for example, lists homes like this 2-story luxury shipping container home for just under $29,000. Similarly, Home Depot offers a more spacious 444 square foot 2-bedroom rose cottage for $63,000. While these prices sound enticing, there are a few important considerations to keep in mind. First, do not forget or overlook that these are tiny homes, which means tiny living. If you're unaware of what life is like in a tiny home, check out the show Living Big in a Tiny Home before you jump on the tiny living bandwagon. It is a pretty freeing way of life and at the same time radically different from what we're used to. Next, purchasing a tiny home from Amazon or Home Depot doesn't necessarily mean you can set it up just anywhere. Local zoning laws and building codes vary, especially when it comes to ADUs or prefabbed homes. Some cities, including parts of San Diego, are more flexible in allowing ADUs as a way to alleviate housing shortages, while others remain more strict. And to be honest, I am hearing more and more cases of smaller homes being allowed versus not. I think this is in part due to how far behind San Diego is on meeting its new housing construction mandates. Now, believe it or not, this isn't a new idea. Over a century ago, Sears sold more than 70,000 mail order homes, which could be assembled by buyers themselves. These homes were affordable and their popularity grew as the US housing market expanded. Today, with constraints of high prices, limited inventory, and mortgage rates, the return of these do-it-yourself homes highlights just how stretched the affordability issue has become. In San Diego, where home prices are notoriously high, these tiny homes represent an affordable alternative for many buyers. With the cost of a typical home here soaring far above the national average, it's no wonder why there's so many people jumping on the bandwagon for creative solutions like this. As prices continue to hold and gain in some areas, it seems more and more likely that options like what Amazon and Home Depot offer will only be the way for future buyers to actually get into the market. So what does this mean for San Diego? While the concept of ordering a home kit online is exciting, it doesn't come without challenges. San Diego's real estate market is unique, with zoning regulations and high land values adding to complexity. However, as the city continues to grapple with affordability and housing shortages, especially with the demand of ADUs growing, these tiny homes are becoming part of the solution. They might not replace your traditional home, but they do offer flexibility if you're looking to build additional units on the property you already own, or if you're looking for a smaller footprint. As we watch the real estate market evolve, especially in response to the affordability crisis, one thing is certain. Solutions like these tiny homes could be a step in the direction towards addressing the housing gap. Whether you're a homeowner considering adding an ADU to your property or a prospective buyer looking for a more affordable entry point into home ownership, the growing accessibility of tiny homes might just open doors for more people here in San Diego. Now, here's where I think the real opportunity is. Find an old house, like a really, really old one that just needs to be torn down. After you tear it down, flatten out the lot, set up all your plumbing and electrical meters, and throw 3 to 4 of these tiny homes on a single lot, or more if you could fit them. Now, the high cost of getting into the market with the purchase of the land would dramatically be offset by the rent you can collect on these other units, which all came at a much, much, much lower cost in comparison to building. So what do you think? Would you consider buying a tiny home from Amazon or Home Depot, or do you think traditional housing is still the way to go? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And that's a wrap for this week's San Diego Market Matters video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you're thinking of moving to San Diego, check out the video I posted about the 8 things every buyer should know before moving here. As always, I'm Karl, your San Diego realtor. I'll see you next video.